I follow a very loose structure in that there is no structure, and 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 yeah, it just works better that way.
Well, structure is overrated.
So what have you been up to since? Well, I don't think you and I have talked since the first time we tried this.
No, which was what, like September of last year?
September, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been a long. Well, I mean, we texted about like New Year's and stuff, but like we haven't like talked, and I think since
No.
September. So we are well overdue. So give me some life updates that are worth updating.
We're long overdue. There's no way I can be concise.
Don't be.
The last like 7 or 8 months of my life.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I used to always joke that I would peak in my 30s, and I was joking, but so far I've been 30 for like 7 or 8 months, and it's been pretty rad.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So life has been a lot of travel lately. I mean, since the last time you and I talked, I had a pretty major surgical procedure.
True.
Which,
That's true. I guess we talked about that as well.
a little bit, yeah, which we don't need to go into like super detail about, but it was basically like pretty intense kind of abdominal surgery, and
Right.
laid me out for a few months. Like I was on medical leave from work for about 3 months, and so all of 2024 has just kind of been like furiously trying to like live my life and get back out in the world and travel a little. And so the last couple months I've been all over the country, doing like real short, simple trips, but visiting friends or just, taking time to get out and explore places I haven't been.
Sure. So where all have you been traveling to?
Let's see. In the span of the last couple months, I, in pretty quick succession, went to Denver and then Hawaii and then Chicago.
Denver, Hawaii, Chicago.
Yeah.
Nice.
In and around that time period, I also had a couple of trips to LA, sometimes just on my own, and then a couple of times for work.
Okay.
Work sends me down to Los Angeles every now and then.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What was your favorite trip? And so what was your favorite trip, and how long were you in each of those places for?
Oh man, it's impossible to pick a favorite out of those three. They were each awesome for their own reasons. I went to Denver on my own, and the main motivating factor for that trip was I'm on a mission. So I'm a huge hockey fan. You know
Right.
that about me, obviously. I played for most of my life growing up. I played for 13 years from when I was in elementary school all the way through college. And I'm retired from playing, obviously, but currently on a quest as a fan to see a game in all 32 NHL arenas.
Oh, that's a fun little game to play. Yeah, I like that.
That's my new like long.
How many have you done?
So I've done 9.
Okay, nice. So we're at the beginning of the journey.
We're just over a quarter of the way there.
Uh-huh.
So I went to Denver in April because I wanted to see a Colorado Avalanche game. So that was arena number 9. I crossed that off my list. But then I also turned it into like a long weekend and just hung out, explored around the city, just kind of like got off the grid for a few days and spent some time in Denver.
Awesome.
Hawaii was a completely different experience. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, sure. Different terrain.
Yeah, totally different terrain. But that trip came up through work, basically. Should I should I talk a little bit about what I do, I guess, before I jump into,
Yeah. That's totally
I
fine.
guess, why? By the way, if I seem a little stilted or awkward, my connection is awful, and so like we're both kind of like cutting in and out a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, no worries.
Um, so apologies if it's a little weird.
All good. I noticed it a little bit, but for the most part, you've been clear on my
Okay,
end, except for maybe like once or twice for like 2 seconds.
okay,
Um, so it's been good. No worries.
good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Let's go into your work first, and then we can go from there.
cool. So I am the associate post-production manager at Lucasfilm. I have worked in post-production in the film and TV industry for the last 6 years. I've been at Lucasfilm for just a little over 3 years. I started off as a post-production coordinator and recently got promoted to associate post-production manager. Um,
Kudos. How long ago was that? That had happened when we last talked?
that was super recent. That was like the end of
Okay.
March is when that
Oh
happened.
wow, hella recent.
Yeah, yeah, not even like barely over a couple months ago.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's excellent. So, okay, I know this. We're just going to be tangenting this whole time, but
Sure.
how is how has that transition been?
Um, it's been uh, it kind of hasn't been, I guess. I feel
Uh-huh.
like um, this was more um, this was more an instance of my title sort of scaling appropriately to a lot of the things I was already doing. Um,
Okay.
and a big reason for that is like, anyone who's paid any attention to the film and TV industry knows that the past year has been incredibly bleak. There were
Yeah.
two there were two overlapping strikes last year that basically shut the industry down for several consecutive months, and um, all of that, of course, is coming right after the pandemic, which threw everything into complete disarray. So, as a result of that, there was a pretty drawn out sort of hiring and promotion freeze across all of the Disney banners. So, Lucasfilm, Marvel, FX, Hulu, 20th Century, like anything under the Disney umbrella was sort of just frozen for a little while. But that didn't stop me from, doing what I've always kind of done in my job, which is being ambitious and taking on new things and learning new things. And so I think um, the promotion was a little bit less about me like stepping into a ton of new responsibilities and sort of scaling to kind of what I was already doing. Um, it's a pretty modest bump to go from a coordinator to associate manager. I still have a manager that I report to, and then our department heads are SVP of post production. So, um, a little bit a nicer title, a little bit better pay, but a lot of the same sort of responsibilities and expectations in my day to day.
Well, that's good. I guess now, hopefully, that just means you're being paid a little bit more as far as what you're actually worth, and not having to adjust to too many new responsibilities is always a nice thing. So, well,
Yeah,
congrats. I'm glad they threw that your way. Very much deserving, and I know how passionate you are about the craft, and so
yeah,
I know that you are ambitious in that regard. So I'm glad to see that this is still continuing to be fruitful for you.
yeah.
So I know, and I'm not asking you about shows or anything at the moment, but I know there's rules that you'll have to follow. Um, with regards to all those setbacks that you just talked about, COVID, the writer strike, and the actor strike, um, what's that been like for you, and how are you recovering?
Um, well, I would say right now things are probably slower at work than they've been in the time I've worked there. We
Mm-hmm.
obviously still have a handful of projects in different phases. We're about to release a show called The Acolyte. It comes out in just a
Right.
few days. It comes
Two
out on,
days, right?
yeah, 2 days. on June the
Yep.
4th. Watch it on Disney Plus. Shameless plug.
Yeah, do it.
Um, and then we're in post production on a couple of other shows. Season 2 of Andor, which originally aired back in 2022, and then a show.
Surprisingly awesome. Like that came out of nowhere and was dope.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, probably in just speaking as a fan, probably my favorite thing that we've done in the time that I've worked here.
Nice. Yeah, it's been my favorite. I think my favorite show overall. Maybe a couple Mando episodes might trump it as individually, but as a collective, that Andor season 1 was probably my favorite so far.
Yeah, yeah. We're all really, really proud of that show and excited for season 2. So we're in post production on that one. We're in post production on a show called Skeleton Crew, which is another show set in the Star Wars universe. Stars Jude Law. We have all of those things going on, but like they're all kind of spread out and they're in different phases. Some of them were impacted by the strikes more than others. So things are, it's not like it's dead. It's not like it's quiet, but this is probably the slowest it's been in the time that I've worked there. So it's been interesting. But I think one of the things I'm personally really grateful for is that the strikes impacted a lot of people I know, like a lot of people I've worked with over the years. And I know a lot of people are still looking for work, trying to get back in. A lot of people that have been working on a contracting basis, like freelance work, hopping show to show, are struggling to get back on another project. Whereas the sort of worst thing I can say about my experience is the hiring freeze or the promotion freeze that I mentioned. Like, I'm incredibly grateful that all of that happened while I had a studio job, and I was really protected by the fact that I'm a corporate full-time employee at Lucasfilm. And our department we're post-production, but we're under the physical production banner, so we're a pretty small, intimate team, but we're the ones that are kind of directly working on the live action content here for Lucasfilm. So we were pretty insulated from the worst of it, I think, and we're really fortunate for that, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's good that you're able to find a sense of gratitude amidst all the craziness that has been the past few years. Is that for that industry, that's good. I'm glad that you're grateful. Okay, so you said that's why you went to Hawaii, was partially for work?
So yeah, I'll bring it full circle, but basically I was very lucky to make a new friend through my job. This is an area where I have to be careful not to give too many details, actually.
Sure, yeah.
But like I mentioned, I get to travel to LA for work a lot, and I meet a lot of new people. Some of them that work for Lucasfilm, and some of them that just are connections I make through people that work at Lucasfilm or whatever. And on one of my recent trips to LA, I sort of struck up a friendship. I made a new friend, basically, this really lovely girl named Jenna.
Okay.
And Jenna is the assistant to Michael Giacchino.
Okay. I know who that is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like...
Do you want to tell people who that is real quick? Just so...
Of course, yeah. So I think primarily known for being a very well-renowned film and TV composer. He did the score for Lost. He won an Oscar for scoring, I believe it was Up, the Pixar film Up. He did the score for Rogue One several years ago for Lucasfilm. He's done the score for all the Spider-Man films, and then most recently probably known for breaking away from scoring into directing and doing the Werewolf by Night.
Which was sick.
Feature, which was like the best, my favorite thing Marvel has put out in the past, I don't know, since Endgame, probably, the last 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, great little one-off adventure that was really well done. And he also did I know he did the first two, but I think he did all three Star Trek films. He did Doctor Strange for the score. So I mean, yeah, super well known.
Yeah, all kinds of really well known film and TV scores, and a really beautiful composer. The music he does is gorgeous and often like very emotional. Like the last soundtrack brings me to tears most of the
Nice.
time. On that topic, when I met Jenna, or I should say, as I became friends with Jenna, she brought up to me that Michael was doing a 20th anniversary Lost in concert performance in Hawaii with the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra, and she more or less invited me. It basically was her just convincing me I should go, and it was kind of short notice. Like, we first started talking about it about a month or so before it happened, and initially I was like, oh, it's, I wasn't planning on it. It's only like a month away. Like, I just don't know. And she just kept kind of egging me on, like, it's going to be so much fun. You should do it. Like, there are still tickets available. And finally, she was like, look, she was like, if you come, like, I can get you on the backstage list. You can come hang out with us after the show. Like, some of the cast are going to be there from Lost to celebrate the 20th anniversary. Like, I'll introduce you to them. Like, it'll be a fun time. And I was like, all right, twist my arm.
All right. Yeah. That sounds incredible.
Yeah. So I just said, fuck it. Like, this is a really cool sort of once in a lifetime opportunity. And I'm a huge Lost fan. Like, that's one of the first TV shows I really fell in love with. So I was like, why not? Like, it's like, let's just make a fun weekend out of it and do it. So I booked flights. I booked a hotel. I took that Friday and Monday off work so that I could make a little bit of a small Hawaii vacation out of it. And yeah, went there for the weekend, saw the concert, hung out with Jenna and like the whole crew that whole night. And otherwise just like, explored Honolulu. I spent all of that Sunday on the beach. I burnt the hell out of myself. And it was awesome. It was a great time. It was my first time in Hawaii.
Yeah, I've never been. Well, I mean, heck of a first time as far as a long weekend goes. Golly, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was really, really awesome. And Jenna and Michael, their whole team, they're just like amazing people, just like way kinder and friendlier than anyone has any right to be. They're just really, really amazing, warm people and so easy to talk to and get along with. And it was a cool experience to spend a lot of the weekend with them.
Sorry, I missed that last part. That was one of the times that it happened.
Oh, for sure.
They're really amazing people, super warm,
super easy to talk to and be around. And it was just awesome spending a lot of that weekend with them.
Oh, good. Yeah. So you got to like meet and hang out with Michael then?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I know this has happened several times to you throughout this journey, like when you're working on Indiana Jones and getting to meet Harrison Ford, and I'm allowed to say that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I figured. I was like, that's just someone you knew,
Yeah.
and it's happened with some other folks, and now getting to meet Michael, who worked on one of your favorite shows. Is it just like a constant, I don't know if full circle moment is the right phrase, but are you just constantly just like, maybe not starstruck, but just in disbelief that these people who you once looked up to are now your, work friends / acquaintances / real friends? Like, I mean, what the heck?
Yeah, I have moments like that a lot. I definitely wouldn't say I get starstruck because, like, even before I worked at Lucasfilm, it just kind of was apparent working in this industry you were going to run into those people and
Right.
or those kinds of people. And it becomes really apparent pretty quickly that everyone's just people, like regardless of how famous someone is or how well somebody publicly, like we're all just people. We're all just kind of here to get the job done. And when you're in like a production office or an editing bay or anything like that, it's a very sort of like, it's not overly serious, but it's like we are here to do a job and to get some work done. So I've
Right,
never
right.
been, yeah, I've never been the kind of person that gets particularly starstruck, and I don't go out of my way to like meet celebrities or talk to them or try to get like photos or autographs or that sort of thing. But there have been a couple of occasions where I've met specific people where the work they did meant a lot to me, and Michael was definitely one of those. Like when I met him and the first couple of times I had conversations with him, I was just like, wow, this is really, like it is full circle, exactly like you said. Like Lost is one of the reasons I changed my major when I was in college. Like
Mm.
I wasn't originally a film major at OU, and
I don't think I knew that, despite
yeah,
being a roommate at the time.
yeah, yeah,
Because you were just in it, I think, when I knew you, because I didn't know you till after my sophomore year.
yeah. We met when I was like about to be a junior, when we were both about to be juniors, I think, something
Yes,
like that.
at the very end of sophomore year, because you were
Yeah,
about to like. I met you with like Rob and them. They're like, "Yeah, this is gonna be our roommate," and I was like, "Sick, what's up?"
yeah, yeah.
Because I didn't actually live at the house at that time.
Right, that's right. Yeah, that's a whole other story. Like
Yeah,
that crew went through so many iterations, but
yeah, definitely.
um, but yeah, I was a sports management major in my freshman year of
Which
college.
tracks? That also makes
Right,
sense.
right, because I played hockey all my life, and I knew by the time I got to college, I knew I wasn't going to play beyond that. So the
Hmm.
logic was, well, I still love the sport and I still want to be involved with it, so maybe I can find a way to work in it professionally, if I can't play. And after my first semester, basically, I was just like, actually, this isn't for me. Like this isn't what I'm really passionate about. None of the potential career paths are particularly like appealing or enticing. And plus, I just kind of felt like I wasn't really finding my people, like my classmates and peers. I was like, this isn't really, not that they were bad people or anything like that, but it just wasn't like the vibe that suited me, for lack of a better
Oh
phrase.
no, for sure. That's the word I was going to chime in with was vibe. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I switched my major ultimately to it was screenwriting and producing. I was in the School of Media Arts and Studies, but those are just a bunch of extra syllables to say film school, as far as I'm concerned.
Hmm.
um, so when I did that, there were a couple of things that were really influential, and a lot of them were the TV shows I was watching at the time, which was like Lost and Breaking Bad, and that was when like The Walking Dead was in its heyday. So like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was some prime AMC TV.
yeah,
I know
yeah,
Lost was an AMC, but Walking Dead and Breaking Bad were.
exactly. And so like when I was thinking about, well, what do I want to do instead? What is the career path I want to, or the life path even that I want to try and maybe move myself into? Like it was really apparent really quick. Like I'd always had this love for film and TV and this fascination for the craft. It goes back to way before I like watched Lost and Breaking Bad in college, but I was watching those shows at a time where my life was changing and the way I thought about who I was as a person was changing. And as things were becoming clearer to me, that was one of them, was what I wanted to do with my life and with my career. And those were the projects I was watching at the time that were like really inspiring and that made me feel like, oh, like I want to do this.
I
Um,
gotcha. Very formative.
yeah, super, super formative. And so meeting Michael was one of those moments for sure where, like I said, I don't typically get starstruck and I don't go out of my way really to have these interactions, but when they come about naturally or organically, I always pinch myself and I think like, geez, not to be totally cliche about it, but like if you had told that me back in like 2012 or 13, whatever, that like the decision to go on this path and to divert from what I had been doing would lead to having these interactions and to sort of getting to know these people that, either meant a lot to me or they created art that meant a lot to me. Those moments have always been really special. And that's always been my favorite thing about my job. Um, Not to get like too like precious about it or whatever. But
Do it.
after I met Michael, okay, fine, I will. If you insist.
Yeah, I
Um,
do.
After I met Michael, we had these interactions where like we got along super well just because um, he's like an incredibly laid back guy, and we just would like joke around. Like we would just be like deeply unserious around each other and just kind of like crack jokes and laugh. And um, I had
That's
this
fucking awesome.
I had this moment afterwards where I was like, it's not like the equivalent experience. It's not like as meaningful, but the way I was thinking of it was like this person created something that meant so much to me and was so formative for me. And all these years later, I have the privilege of like making that person laugh, bringing that person joy. It was like this weird sense of like giving something back to them that they had given me without
Oh, sure, sure. Yeah, yeah, I get that.
like them knowing about that transaction or talking about that transaction. It was just like this
Uh-huh.
natural thing that happened. And then I wasn't thinking about it like that until after the fact. But that was one of the more profound pinch myself moments where I was like, that's pretty cool. Like if the most I can do is just make someone like that, like if I can bring them joy for a little bit of
Right.
time, whether it's, you
Right.
know, making them laugh or making their job easier, whatever it is, it was like that's a really cool thing to do to somebody that's given me an experience that I can't put into words.
Yeah, oh my gosh, 100%. That's just it's just so cool that you find yourself exactly where you're supposed to be in terms of you're working in the field that inspired you so, and you're getting to pay it forward a little bit. Yeah, that's just I can only imagine how rewarding that is.
Yeah.
Wow. Um, you you posted a photo with you and Papa Feige the other day.
So I, I think that this has just turned into like the name drop hour, essentially.
I know. We can stop. We can move on. But I had to mention it because I saw it. So if we're talking people that have made an impact on lives,
Yeah.
uh, you know, I
So
mean, good lord.
I'll tell that story because it's part of this. But this is the last name drop.
Yeah, yeah. That's totally fine. That's totally fine.
But I've actually been really excited to tell you this story, particularly just because I know not only how much of a fan you are of him, but how much you'll appreciate the sort of hilarity of this circumstance as it worked out.
Let's
But
go.
so I went to Hawaii for this concert primarily. And when Jenna was pitching it to me, like trying to convince me to go, one of the other sort of selling points was on that Friday night, the night before the concert, there was a record release party going on at a record store in Honolulu. And Michael was putting out this sort of exclusive vinyl record that had a couple like remixed tracks from the Lost soundtrack, basically. Um, so this record store was doing this release party. Michael was going to be there along with this gentleman named Carlton Cuse, who's one of the executive producers on Lost, and they were going to be signing autographs, you know, signing records, basically doing a meet and greet with anyone that wanted to come to the store and be part of that event. So Jenna invited me. She told me that I should come and just like hang out and be there for the evening. And I was like, totally, like that sounds like a rad thing to do. So I'll be there. I didn't realize a couple of things. One, I didn't realize that this was like a ticketed event that you were supposed to buy tickets to if you were going to go. And I also didn't realize that this record store was incredibly small. We're talking like the size of a studio apartment, like a very, very small record store.
Oh boy. Okay, gotcha.
A very cool record store, a very awesome place, but just very small. And
Sure.
so I showed up to the event, and all that I see is this massive line down the sidewalk, like a block long, where people are clearly lined up waiting to get in and do the meet and greet with Michael and Carlton at the table. And I initially sort of walked to the front of the line because I was like, I know Jenna, I know Michael. If I can get their attention, maybe I can wave them down and just, sort of pop in and stand off to the side. I didn't want to cut the line, but I just thought if I could get in, I could hang out with Jenna, just kind of stand off to the side and be out of the way. But when I did that, when I walked to the front of the store, it was just chaos. It was like impossible to get in or out. There were employees that were clearly like guarding the entrance and making sure that people who had bought tickets were, they were checking their tickets. And so I was like, and I couldn't like easily get Michael or Jenna's attention. So I was like, this is chaos and it's very stressful. And I don't want to just like butt into the situation as somebody who's just here as a guest, essentially.
Sure, fair enough.
So I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to get in the back of the line. And then when I get to the line, despite not having a ticket, I'm just going to get Jenna's attention and, go off to the side and basically hang out or whatever. So I get in line and I'm probably in line for like 45, 50 minutes. And it was an awesome experience because I met all these people that were also diehard Lost fans, and they were just really excited to be there and to meet Michael. And so we talked, and I got to know them for like the 45, 50 minutes we were in line, and I was just like, well, this is cool. Like, this is a fun little like side quest to talk to these strangers. I think most of them were from Honolulu, and like,
okay, sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, like one of them was an extra in the show, like while they were filming there. So like I met this girl who was like scrolling through photos on her phone of her like in the background on the island, like from, more than a decade ago when they filmed this show. And that was a really cool experience. But I'm going through this line and I'm getting closer and closer to the front of the record store. And I'm getting a little bit nervous because this is like, I know that what I'm going to have to do is get to the front of the line and basically be like, I know Michael, like I know Jim.
VIP, baby.
Yeah, like I'm part of the crew. And I'm also going to have to reveal that I didn't buy a ticket, which felt shitty because this wasn't my intention, but that made it look like I just assumed I could show up and roll in. And that wasn't the case at all. I just genuinely had no idea it was a ticketed event until I got there. And by the way, I did look when I got there and I realized that to see if I could buy a last minute ticket, and it was sold out. So,
okay, gotcha.
So I literally had no choice. So finally I get to the front of the line. I'm like 2 people back from the door, and I can see like the person who is effectively the bouncer, and I'm like game planning what I'm going to have to say. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to get there and I'm going to be like, I'm friends with Jenna. I just want to go say hi to her, stand off to the side. And I don't have a ticket. I'm sorry, but I know Jenna, let me go. So I'm about to get to that point, and my heart is already kind of racing because this is like an awkward situation for me. And suddenly Jenna comes walking out of the record store, and she doesn't see me. She like walks right past me, and she goes around the corner of the building. So she rounds like the street block that the record store is on, essentially. And she's out of sight. Like I can't see her.
Shit.
And I'm like, fuck, I'm going to have to tell this person that I'm here, like as a friend of Jenna, and Jenna's not here now to validate that. Like I can't like point her out and get her attention and have her like verify that I can come in. But before it gets to that point, before I get to the person at the door, Jenna comes back around the corner, walking back towards the entrance of the record store, and with her, right next to her, walking with her, is Kevin Feige.
Unreal. I knew that's where this was going once I figured she went around the corner. Wow. They pulled up in the bulletproof Marvel SUV and dropped them off in the alley next door.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't see what he rolled up in, but they come walking around to the front of the store, and it was one of those situations where I was just like, this might as well be what happens now. Like, of course.
Crazy. So okay, so
So
Feige comes around, yeah.
so Feige comes in with Jenna. They go into the record store. Kevin is standing off to the side of the table where Michael and Carlton are sitting, meeting people and signing autographs and stuff. But as they had come back in, I was able to get Jenna's attention when she came back with Kevin. So Jenna told the person at the door, hey, when she gets to the front, let her in. She's here with us, basically. So I was able to get in. I stood off to the side just with Jenna and some of the other people that were working there at the record store while the rest of the event finished up. So they cycled through the rest of the line, and I just stayed off to the side out of the way. And then finally, when everyone was done, the event was essentially over. I bought a couple copies of the record, and Michael signed them for me, and I met Carlton as well. And then Jenna took my picture between Carlton and Michael, and this is so hilarious. I'll send these to you when we get off of here so you can see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Which sucks for anyone listening to this podcast episode. Sorry.
Yeah, tough.
I can't give you the visual proof, but Jenna took 5 pictures of me standing between Michael and Carlton, and in the corner of each picture, Kevin is there, but his head, I think he was doing it deliberately. I can't prove this, but I think he was aware and was doing this on purpose. His head was leaning out of frame. So if you look at these pictures of me and Michael and Carlton, there's a body on the left side of the frame that is Kevin Feige, and you can't see his face. So I was looking at the pictures afterwards, and I was like, this is such an incredible story, and no one will ever believe me because
it's like a Bigfoot sighting.
Yeah, it just looks like some dad in a Hawaiian shirt, leaning off of frame. And so I was like, fuck. I was like, and I wasn't at an event like that. I was saying about how I don't go out of my way to sort of butt in. I was like, I'm not going to, he very clearly was there to spend time with Michael. And I was like, I'm not going to butt in or, take up anyone's time. So after I said bye to Michael and Jenna, I just left. And I was like, I guess that's the story for me because no one's ever going to see these photos and be like, yeah, sure, that's Kevin Feige. Uh-huh. So I left and I was buzzing at the whole just absurdity of that unfolding the way that it did. And then it dawned on me, the concert was the following night. And I was like, if he's here in Hawaii and he just showed up at this record release, there's a pretty good chance he'll probably be at the concert too. And I'm going to be going backstage afterwards to hang out with the crew and everybody. So maybe vindication, right?
Right.
So the next night I go to the concert ends. I go to the little waiting area where they have everyone that's on the VIP list hang out. And I'm, it's just me and probably 15 or 20 other people that clearly were either family members of people or me, they were somehow friends or acquaintances with somebody who was part of the crew or part of Michael's team or whatever. And before Michael or any of the cast from the show or anyone walked in, sure enough, there comes Kevin. He walks into the room. And I was like, this is my chance to redeem the situation and prove to everyone that this story that I want to tell legitimately happened. And so it was so great because at one point he walked out, maybe to get a drink or go to the bathroom or whatever before I could get to him. And I was like, he left. I was
shit.
I missed my chance. But he came back and finally I was able to kind of work my way over to him, and I introduced myself and I said to him, I was like, I told him I worked at Lucasfilm. I was like, hi, I'm Samantha. I work in post-production at Lucasfilm. I was like, I normally don't like to do this type of thing in this environment, but I just wanted to come over and introduce myself and tell you, how much I admire what you do and how much respect I have for, the Marvel banner and that sort of thing. And he basically blew past all of that. And he was like, you work at Lucasfilm? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I am so excited for Skeleton Crew. And he started talking about like, he deflected anything I said that related to Marvel and started talking about how excited he was for like upcoming Star Wars projects. And it was so funny.
Yeah.
Like that's obviously intentional. Like I'm sure he's
Oh,
just
for sure, dude. He's a secret agent, basically.
yeah,
Like, he's so trained in that.
absolutely. But it was also like I still got the sense that it was very genuine, that like everything he was saying was like legitimate and meaningful and um he obviously knows John Watts and Chris Ford, who are the creators of Skeleton Crew, because they're the ones who wrote and directed the Spider-Man movies,
Right.
respectively.
And Jude
Um,
Law was in Captain Marvel.
and Jude Law was in Captain Marvel, so I'm sure he's well aware of that project, you know, to whatever degree he can be. And he just was going on and on about how much he was looking forward to it and how everything he had heard about it sounded really, really promising. And we essentially just talked about Star Wars for like 5 minutes. Um,
Nice.
and it was really, really cool. He was super friendly. He was super, super gracious with his time. I never got the feeling that me coming over and saying hi was like annoying to him.
Mm-hmm.
He was like really talkative and really, really friendly. And finally, as we were wrapping up, like more and more people had flooded into the room, and I wanted to go spend time with Jenna and Michael and some other people that were there that I knew. And I just said, look, I was like, it's been really, really awesome to meet you. Would you mind if we grabbed a quick picture? And he was like, yeah, of course. So we took the selfie that you saw that I posted on Instagram.
Yep.
And I was like, not only was it a cool moment just for its own sake, like that, it was that primarily, but also I was like, yes. It's
Dude.
like now I've got it, because those there were literally 5 pictures where you can see all of his body, but his face is leaning out of frame, and I was like, I have to, I have to redeem this.
That's so funny. Yeah, Sam's weekend with Feige, unintentional.
Completely unintentional. Yeah, it's not like when Jenna told me about the event that she was like, by the way, Kevin Feige is going to be there. Like
Uh-huh.
that wasn't part of the pitch package. So
Right, right.
it
I
was
mean, the
just
pitch was already sweet enough as it was. It was already
yeah,
like, go watch, an orchestral performance of the Lost score. It's like, oh shit, okay. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Which, like, by the way, I feel like I buried the lead entirely. Like that really was like the culmination of the whole experience. Like the show was
Uh-huh.
unbelievable. You know, it was uh, probably hour and a half long performance with an intermission breaking it up of just this gorgeous orchestral performance played over scenes from the show or montages of clips.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's special.
Yeah, and then some of the cast members were there, so they would come out and they would like read their scenes from the script, and the orchestra would play with them. So it was like they were acting out those scenes
What?
live.
Oh my gosh.
It was it was amazing. I mean, that alone was worth the was worth the trip.
Right.
And then yeah, just all those other little things around it just made it so much more special. And I cracked Jenna up too, because Jenna and I, we like went and had dinner one night that weekend after all of this had happened, and we were talking about everything. And I was like, imagine from my perspective, you walking out of the record store while I've been like waiting for an hour to somehow get your attention, and
Right.
you
Getting
come
like anxious.
yeah, and you come back around the corner with Kevin fucking Feige. Like,
Unreal.
so it was just an unbelievable time. Like, you know, it was such a quick, small trip, but one of those things that like I will just remember forever and be so grateful for, because it was like every moment just kept like topping the last, and it was an incredible trip.
Yeah, if I have to, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was so
Wow.
wishy-washy about going. I was like, oh, I don't know. It's short notice. I've got these other trips planned. Oh, I'd be kicking myself if I hadn't gone.
Oh, you would be so upset. You'd be so upset. I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully, if you hadn't gone, Jenna would have shown you mercy and just not told you.
Oh, yeah. I'd like to think she'd be kind enough to just let it go.
Let it go. Yeah. Wow. I can't believe any of that. I mean, obviously I do. But it's just from a life experience perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like a weekend in Hawaii, getting to see, having this like full circle moment with the whole Lost performance, getting to meet someone like Kevin Feige, and I'm assuming this friendship with Jenna, just getting to have another hangout session with an awesome friend. I mean, wow, that's excellent. So, Denver, Hawaii, Chicago.
So Chicago was literally just last weekend.
Okay.
And that was really just a trip to visit two of my cousins, Kyle and Eli.
From the band?
Kyle is in the band. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, was in the band.
Was in the band. The band that you did the music video for.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I saw a photo and I was like, I know that dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So sadly, the band, Girl Colors was their name. They're not together anymore.
Gotcha.
They've been broken up for several years now. But yeah, so you met Kyle back at OU when we did that music video. I directed a music video for their band, and you and Tay and a few
other idiots.
Some other ne'er-do-wells were part of the cast of this music video. So yeah, I went, it was Kyle and then his older brother, Eli. Kyle lives in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Eli lives in New York City. We all just wanted to meet up in Chicago for the weekend. Primarily, it was to see an LCD Sound System concert, which we did on Saturday night, which was incredible.
Pimp.
And then we just built the rest of the weekend around that. We saw a Second City show, which I don't know if you're familiar with Second City. They are like the sort of, I guess, famous historical like improv comedy company in Chicago. So like they're well known for bringing up a lot of like famous comedians, a lot of people that go on to be part of the cast of SNL, things like that.
That's cool.
We went to one of their main shows on Sunday night. It was hilarious. It was absolutely like uproariously hilarious. And that felt like a quintessentially like Chicago thing to do, because Second City like is Chicago. There are all these little like, comedy or improv troupes that are kind of well known in different cities. Like New York has one, LA has the Groundlings, which is like the same thing but for the West Coast. Second City is the one in Chicago, and it lived up to all the expectations. They were hilarious.
Let's go. That sounds awesome.
It was great. So that was Chicago. We did the concert, we did the comedy show, had a ton of great food. It was just good to be with both of them. I hadn't seen either of them I saw Eli right before my surgery last year, so it had been 7 or 8 months since I'd seen him. I hadn't seen Kyle in like a year and a half, so really, really good to spend time with them.
Definitely. That's awesome. Yeah, I had, with Tay and I being in North Carolina for 2 years, I hadn't seen some of my cousins for a while. So this past year, because now we're coming up, Tay and I came back like June 16th last year. So we're coming up on a year of being back. And so it's been a lot of seeing some family that I hadn't seen in a while, doing that sort of thing. And it's always really nice because you're tight with family, and even if you don't see each other for a while, but then when you do see each other, you're like, oh yeah, this is awesome. This is dope.
It's always like right back where you left off.
Yeah, 100%. Which
Yeah.
is crazy now to think about that we've been back for a year, because we got back on a Thursday night into Friday, and then later that Friday you arrived, or we met you somewhere. I actually can't remember. I think your mom dropped you off. Uh, and and so like just moved from North Carolina to Ohio, just drove like that entire way, and then boom, Sam's here and it's a party, and then we're going to a wedding, and the wedding was kick ass, dude. That wedding was awesome.
That was such a great weekend. It was
Yeah,
such
shout
a
out Marissa and Anthony.
Yeah. Thanks for getting married. That was pretty
Thanks for
cool.
getting married. Yeah, 100% recommended that.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was a camp out at the winery was just like, come on, forget
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. It's wild that that was a year ago now. Like that was
I feel
June
like
of.
a time traveler.
Yeah. All the time. Time has become completely irrelevant.
Totally,
Um,
totally. I like when people are like, "Oh, that's 4 months away." I'm like, "Oh, sweet, that'll be here soon."
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I don't even sweat it. Like 4 months
No,
when
no,
you're
no, no.
like that's forever.
For sure, for
And
sure.
yeah, 4 months when you're an adult is like, oh, that's like 2 sleeps.
Not even just, yeah. It's just not even a thing anymore. What would you
No.
say? What would you say has been the most rewarding thing for you this past year since that time? Well, I mean, because you've done a lot,
Yeah.
and you can go into you can go into as much or little detail as you want. I don't care, and it could be something else, whatever. I'm just kind of
Um,
assuming.
no, I mean, you know the answer to that question, but really what it comes down to is like the past year and a half, close to 2 years at this point, on the whole, like forget just about surgery. Like the surgery I had was something that I had been waiting a long time for. It was something that was very important to me for both my mental and physical health overall. It was, something I very much needed to do. But the time around that, both before and since, has on the whole just been about like taking ownership of my body, of my health, of taking care of myself in a way that I never really have before. So
Oh,
like
okay.
leading up to surgery, I was deliberately trying to get in the best shape I possibly could, not just to have
I
like,
remember that.
yeah, not just to have like the best possible, outcome in terms of like recovery, but just because it was time. Like it was a time in my life where that was something I had wanted to do for a long time, and I was like, this is the time. This if I ever needed like a little extra motivation, that was it for
Mm.
sure. But it became really important to me to start losing weight, to start getting more active, to start eating better, and I've done all of that. When I got to my surgery date, I had lost 60 pounds in a year, essentially. Um,
Whoa.
yeah, I went from basically like the heaviest I've ever been, which was like around, well, basically 305 pounds. By the time I got to surgery, I got down to 245. So
Whoa.
I
Kudos. That's impressive.
thank you. It was like one of the things I'm the most proud of ever having done, honestly, because when I was in college and even my first few years living out here in California, I had a lot of like chubby kid energy where it was
Mhm.
just like almost a part of my identity. What, like,
When you were
oh,
like a goalie, like,
yeah, sure, yeah. And like that was part of it too. Like even when I played hockey, like I played a college sport and I was still kind of like the fat kid on the team. Not the fat kid, but like I've always been a large person, I'm 6'4", I'm really tall, I'm I'm definitely above average height, and I've been a little bit overweight really ever since I started college, and that just became like weirdly and kind of undesirably a part of my identity. Like there was when I played hockey, there was like a catchphrase that my teammates would like that they had assigned to me, which is like we would go out for team meals or team dinners when we were on the road or whatever, and I would eat a lot, and um, the catchphrase would be like, "Well, somebody's got to eat it," like as if that's what I was
Sure,
saying. Like,
sure. Yeah, I get that.
and I just like I became so sort of like encased in that part of my identity that for a lot of years, the idea of losing weight, the idea of like getting healthy and being in really good shape seemed really, really far away
Hmm.
because the like really big limiting voice that I had inside of my head was you couldn't even get in shape when you played a sport in college. Like you were working out.
Oh, yeah. And I get that. Okay, that makes sense. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that always, like every time I would start to get motivated, like I'm going to start working out, I'm going to start losing weight, I would always remember I I would skate, I would be on the ice 4 days a week and then play games on the weekends. Like I was skating 5 or 6 days a week and like we had team workouts aside from that. Like that those 4 years in college in terms of like sweat per 60 was like the most working out I've ever done, and I couldn't get in good shape. I couldn't stay in good shape. I definitely didn't have good habits during the off season. It's not like
Hmm.
I worked out as hard during the summers, and I never had really good dietary habits. So even during the season, I was never really eating particularly well. And I just kind of realized, like, towards the end of 2022, especially as I knew surgery was approaching, it became like this blaring alarm bell inside of me that was just like, I have to change this now, or like I'm just going to be stuck in this loop where I can't get anything done. And it became really important to me to like start to change those habits and to recognize like even though there was that limiting voice that was like if you couldn't do it then what makes you so sure you can do it now, and I had to like start to pick that apart and be like, well, what's different now is I'm in control of what I'm eating, so like I'm going to take way better care of my diet,
Hmm.
and um, I have a lot of like low level privileges that make it easy for me to be physically active. So like I live in San Francisco, which is a really walkable city and a very hilly city. So it's easy for me to like get good exercise just by doing like urban hiking, essentially, like just walking around the city. And I started like kind of making a list of like, here are all these reasons why I'm honestly set up for success. Like I can
Hell
walk to
yeah.
like I can walk. It's a 40-minute walk to work. That's not easy to do every day, but it's attainable. It's an attainable goal.
Certainly.
And so I just started looking at all these different reasons why, instead of questioning, like, why do you think you can do this now? I started flipping that and saying, like, why not? Like, why couldn't I do this?
Let's fucking go.
Um,
Yeah, I love
and
that.
I latched onto it and just went and never looked back. And I, I basically got on this pace where I was losing around 5 pounds a month, which tracks, because like I said, I did about 60 pounds in a year.
Yeah, and that's within a
Um,
healthy weight loss. Typically people go like 0.5 to 2 pounds a week, and so 5 pounds a
yeah,
month is like
yeah. So I felt
1.25 a
like I
week. So
was
that's
doing
that's
it
perfect.
correct. I was being like deliberate about it, and I wasn't rushing myself. Um, but there were just so many things that evolved out of that are now like there's still habits that are really important to me. Like I cook for myself all the time, and I've gotten really passionate about cooking and the things I eat and like the types of food that I buy. And I've started thinking about it in a way that I never have before, where it's just like it's a priority for me to eat healthy and to be mindful of like what I'm putting in my body every day and every week. And so that has been the most rewarding thing overall. That like my body has been through a lot in the past
Yeah,
year and a half, and it's all been you know for the better. Surgery, like recovering from surgery, was definitely grueling, and it was a long process. But the end result of that was something that was necessary and something that was really important to me and something that currently actively like brings me a really high level of life satisfaction. But really what I'm the most proud of is like everything I've done around that to like improve my health and to sort of like change my own narrative about like who I am as a person physically and like what kind of shape I'm in and what I'm capable of doing and like the kind of discipline I'm able to keep myself accountable to like not just have lost the amount of weight that I did, but to like keep it off and to keep going and to do this consistently.
Yeah, well, I mean, so speaking as a professional in the field, post surgery, I know is really hard for people to keep off weight like that. So the fact that you were able to do that and have this sort of transformation of perspective where now it's become part of your value system, that's,
Sorry, I'm
yeah,
sorry to
please.
cut you off. You froze for me right after you said I know after surgery, and then it cut.
Perfect. Let me get into the headspace. No, I'm kidding. uh, uh, I know after surgery, it can be really hard for people to keep that momentum up
Yeah.
because with recovery, you're a lot more sedentary, as you should be. And it,
Mhm.
it takes a while to be able to do more things. But the fact that you were able to transform your mindset so that post surgery, well, it was a no factor because your perspective and your attitude had shifted. That is the only way to do it. And I think, and this is so cool because just this is my passion, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
so and that's what I struggle with sometimes is how do you explain that to people? How do you explain to
Yeah.
people that it's a perception or a perspective problem?
Yeah.
And it's a mental game, and so when people do that on their own and they're like, enough,
Hmm.
and I'm just gonna do this, and then they end up falling in love with it. So to hear you talk about like you really enjoy cooking and being attentive in terms of how you're grocery shopping, and I think a lot of people think of it as like a chore, and it can be like not every day. I don't really like grocery shopping, but I
Sure.
do enjoy the foods that I get, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Uh, and not every day is going to be amazing, but like when you're able to overall transform your perspective and find value in the routine of doing that, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, it forever changes your life. And so that is a huge victory for the past year. Because I remember you were also running, right?
A little bit.
A
Yeah.
little bit, yeah. I remember you talking about that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, Sam, that's just such an amazing thing to hear. That's so cool. That's so cool that you went on that journey to well, I mean, to find the importance in those things. It's and it's what I always say, like, if it's just another thing I can enjoy, why not? I wish I
Yeah.
could like all things. Obviously, I don't like all things, but if you can enjoy something like that, and it is challenging, like having discipline in
Hmm.
and of itself is a challenging thing to abide by and to stick to, but
Hmm.
the reward is lifelong, and the self satisfaction and the not only do you know you're doing something good, but it's a feeling. It's
Yeah.
you feel it in your energy levels. You feel it in just your outlook. So fuck yeah! I had no clue we were going to talk about
Yeah.
yeah, this sort of thing today. So that is totally amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm glad
so
we.
yeah, me too. So now that you're several months post surgery, in terms of just like are you still walking around or like walking to work, or what do you like to do now, just in terms of enjoying being
It's
active?
yeah. It's been a really slow build back because
Sure.
the first 3 months of recovery was basically like no activity, and I kind of removed some of the restrictions on my diet because I was like I've earned this. Like, you know,
For sure. Well, and you're not like out and about going and getting things as much.
yeah, exactly. I had to either rely on takeout or people to go get groceries for me, or honestly, a lot of it just came down to like, what do I have the energy to do? Like, for a very long time, I didn't have the energy to like stand in the kitchen and prep a meal for an hour. You know, like I physically couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it took a minute to get back to like all the same sort of habits, and it's been a very gradual process to get back to my same level of stamina. I feel like I'm coming up on 8 months since surgery, and it's a little bit of like two steps forward, one step back, where it's like, okay, I feel like I'm back, I feel like I'm pretty normal, and then I'll crash really hard and I'll be like super super tired for a few days.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, this far out, like that is kind of the worst of it. And I'm pretty close. Like all of my dietary habits, I'm back where I was. Like I'm eating super healthy. I'm able to cook for myself now. Um, I'm not really worried about that part of it. The aspiration now is getting back to like the same level of exercise that I was doing beforehand. And that's been even more gradual because it's a constant dance I'm doing with myself of like, do I have the energy for this? And if I feel like I don't have the energy for this, is that because I truly don't and I need to rest? Or is that because I've had this crutch for the last 7 or 8 months of being in recovery and this is something I need to push through? And when it comes to those sorts of things, I can be really, really stubborn. So sometimes if I want to work out and I'm really, really tired, sometimes I'm definitely not the greatest at listening to my body and resting when I need to, because I'm like, no, I have to do this. Like I have to get back to these habits and this routine and everything. And it's just been a learning process of like identifying when is the right time to push myself and when is the right time to listen to my body and be like, no, I still need to rest. Like I'm not even a year out. Like my body is technically still in healing mode. Like there is legitimately still, like scar tissue that my body is healing. And so like I have to remind myself constantly that it's okay right now to be like a little bit more deliberate with like ramping back up to the same level of physical activity that I had. But I'm right there. Like just today, like an hour, like I finished like a half hour before we hopped on and started talking. I went for like a big walk. There's a park close to my apartment called Lafayette Square, which is up a huge hill. Like to get there, just going to this park, you're essentially committing to a workout because you're like hiking uphill for like 8 blocks, like 4 west and then 4 more north. But it's one of my favorite things to do because you get the reward of like pushing yourself and going on like an intense walk. And then you get to this park at the top of this huge hill and it looks out over the bay in San Francisco. And like you can see the water, you can see Alcatraz and everything. And that was, especially last year, like leading up to surgery, that was one of my like go-to sort of workouts, was to at least start by doing that. And then usually I would like circle home and do more in my apartment, like core workouts or, more like yoga type stretches and things like that. So today I was able to do that walk and I came back and I did a little bit of a workout in my apartment and I felt like, oh, I can do this. Like my body is able to handle this workload. And it was awesome. And it was like, and I was thinking about you the whole time because I knew we were going to do this and I knew that you were going to be excited to talk about this kind of thing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it was just like endorphins. It was awesome.
Right, dude. The endorphins are the best. Yeah, I mean, talk about just your body's natural stress management system. Well, it's so cool. So like with regards to like a fitness journey, I still struggle with when to listen to the body and when to push through, and that because life changes, like yeah, I had a kid recently. I didn't do it, but I participated. I was there, and so then it's adjusting to that and you're more tired, just, June's been a great baby, so been getting decent sleep, but managing time, because Tay still does some yoga instruction. And so while she's doing that, I'm doing childcare, and she's, depending on what's happening, sometimes I can get a little workout while she's there, sometimes not. And but then on Wednesdays, I also have to be at work at 4:30 in the morning, and I also work late nights Tuesday and Thursday. And so Tuesday night work late, Wednesday morning wake up early. So balancing sleep with childcare, and the point being is it's always changing. So that balance of, is this something I can push through, or do I need to rest, is always, you're always figuring out that new relationship with the body. And that's the beautiful thing though about playing the long game. And that's what's so cool hearing about your recovery story, is like you felt confident in your ability to dial back a little bit on the diet and enjoy yourself while you did have this recovery time, but also then hop back in and adhere to it, and then try and build back to where you were. And, even if it takes, that next 5-10%, a whole other year, well, you're 30, like it's, like, like, who gives a fuck? Like, it doesn't matter. And so that's the great thing about playing the long game, is when you have goals that are long term, these minor setbacks, even if sometimes they can be rather intense, if your goals are long term with regards to the fitness journey, it's like, okay, well, I'll just get through it, because time passes at this crazy fucking rate anyway. So like, whatever. If the resolve is there.
Yeah, that's 100% it. It's so cool to hear you say that, because like the thing I kept telling myself during recovery, especially the first 3 months where it was like no physical activity, the thing I kept saying anytime I would start to get anxious about it was like, well, now I've set the precedent. Like, now I know what I can do. Like, it used to be that limiting voice of like, what makes you think you can do this? And now it's the opposite. Now it's like, look what I've already done. Like, if I've done it once, I can do it again. And I can actually do it better and more.
Right, because you have the experience, and you know what works and what doesn't more, and oh god, it's so fucking sick.
This is what we got to talk about.
Yeah, what? I had no idea that's where this was gonna go. But it's just so amazing. I think anymore, like, with regards to just, so my certifications are, I'm a personal trainer, and then I am certified through Orange Theory to do their group fitness. And then I'm a certified nutrition coach and a corrective exercise specialist, which doesn't really mean anything too much. It just means like you're an intense personal trainer. They just really make you dive in more into like the muscles, and if this, it's not even close to being a physical therapist, but it's basically like, if this hurts, it could be 20 different things, and you have to do like 20 different tests. And if they're in real big pain, send them to a physical therapist. But I know the body pretty well. And anymore now, when I think about fitness, it's like, well, what do I hope to accomplish in 10 years? When I have a 10-year-old, and what do I hope to maintain? What do I expect to lose? And it's just a fun game. And really, it's just like, how awesome of an 80-year-old can I be?
Well, that absolutely sets me on fire, because I'm like, my journey with it has been so inwardly focused, like it's been something I've needed to do for myself. You get to think of it in terms of like, when my daughter's 10 years old, I want to be able to like play with her. Like, I want to be able to like, what is she going to be, a basketball player? Like, I don't want to be that dad that like is, reclined in the chair with a beer and a big pot belly and like, well, maybe tomorrow we'll go out and we'll throw the ball a little bit. Like, no, you're going to be like, let's go, let's do this, let's go to the park. Like,
for sure.
In terms of like, and it like, all of this is valid and important, but like, you're taking it outside of yourself and thinking about like the people in your life that you love, and like being in good shape for them, which is awesome.
And for sure, there's that aspect of wanting to make sure I can just destroy my kids for as long as possible in most things. just fuck them up. But but and then there also is, of course, the selfish, like, as I'm sure you've experienced, you now have the freedom to do more things. So like, the better shape you're in, the more freedom you have to explore your environment or to explore new environments that maybe have been previously unattainable. And so that's just what I think of it, is like, my body is my freedom vessel, and I want to be able to experience as much freedom as possible. That was one of those moments where I said something out loud and I was like, that was fucking stupid. Your body, your body is your freedom vessel. I mean, I believe that, but hearing it out loud, I'm like, oh, that was a Jakeism.
It is a Jakeism, but it's 100% true. Because,
yeah, it's accurate.
Yeah, that resonates with me huge. I mean, my body is my freedom vessel. That's so funny. But like, that's like, you just summed up my experience over the last 7 years, like, more concisely than I can. Like, I, as a trans person, have been through tons of changes to my body, and like, all of it, whether it has been things like losing weight that I'm deliberately in control of, or other things like other changes that have taken, just a lot of patience, has been for the purpose of like feeling free in my body, like feeling comfortable, feeling like I can go outside and I'm presenting myself to the world the way I want to present myself to the world. And that's been so hard and such a long journey. And so like, even if my body is my freedom vessel sounds corny, like, it's absolutely it. Like, you're 100% correct.
Yeah. Well, and I, especially with that in mind, like, you could argue to a certain degree, like, you express your freedom in other ways, but what you've done is the ultimate expression of freedom in terms of committing to doing that. I mean, that takes guts, for lack of a better word. It takes balls, for lack of a better word.
Fuck off. Fuck off.
Oh shit! It cut out again. Can you hear me?
Oh my god.
Oh, it cut out. Did
Yeah.
you say anything?
Well, you said it takes balls, and I said fuck off.
Fuck off. Perfect. So something I did want to talk to you about. How are you on time right now?
I'm fine. I have all the time in the world.
Okay, cool. I wanted to make sure. And I don't know if I'm not asking you questions about anything Star Wars related, and I'm not asking you questions about anything Marvel related. But did you watch X-Men '97?
That is a Marvel related question.
Okay, but it already came out. It's out to the masses.
I did watch X-Men '97, and I had an incredible time.
Yo, where did this show come from? Like, it had no right being as good as it was.
I'm assuming you finished it.
Oh my god, I watched all of it. Yeah.
Okay, so is it episode...
spoiler warning, we're talking about anything. Yeah. Fuck all y'all if y'all didn't watch it.
Absolute spoiler warning. If you haven't watched X-Men '97, just hit the fast forward button like 9 times.
Yeah. Because it's happening.
Yeah. So is it episode 6 is Remember It, the Gambit episode?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah, go on. I don't want to talk over you. Just say your thing.
I have this kind of theory. I don't even know if it's a theory. I think you can kind of prove that it's true, but like, most good TV shows, any TV show ranging from good to like great or an all-timer, has like that episode, right? Like, Game of Thrones has the Red Wedding.
Right.
Like, X-Men '97, episode 106, Remember It, like, is one of those experiences where I was watching that episode and I was like, this is that episode. I was like, this moment is a game changer for this whole series. And like, the whole season was great, like episodes 1 through 10, top to bottom, phenomenal. But that moment, that whole experience of episode 106 was, I feel like that's when everyone knew, like, this is something special.
For sure, for sure. And I'll get to that episode 6. So I watched the first episode and I was enjoying it. I was like, this is cool. You know, they had the funny not joke, you know, with Cyclops. I was like, okay, funny callback. Like, this so far so good. And if you recall in the first episode, they're like flying in the X-Jet, and then that Sentinel just like rips the roof off of the X-Jet with Cyclops still in his arms and his laser visions flying around. And I literally was like, oh fuck, like while I was watching it, because like the action animation, I just learned this recently, but I guess they got guys from like Marvel vs. Capcom and that's why the action was so just like top notch.
Yeah.
But that whole scene of them like falling and then Cyclops using his I-beam to like slow his descent, like there was like 2 minutes where I was just like, oh my god. And then they just took out all the Sentinels in that first episode, so I was like, okay, like from an action perspective, this show just like exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
And then we get to episode 2, and you know, like Magneto is fucking leader of the X-Men or whatever, and they go to that UN meeting, and then he like levitates all the UN people almost to space, and like has that sick ass monologue. And the whole monologue, I was just like, wait, what is happening? Like the whole time I just wasn't expecting. I just thought it was going to be like a fun cartoon that I tuned in weekly and like passed 20 minutes watching and had like a okay solid time. No, after that second episode, I was like, oh no, this is like a real ass show, and I'm like so invested in what is happening. The characters are dope, and then you know, fast forward to the Sinister episode, and you've got like what is her name, Madeline Pryor, but when she's still possessed by Sinister, like going like, I'm the Goblin Queen, and all the trippy visuals with the Sinister stuff. I was like, oh my god, this show keeps doing it. Like, this is crazy. This is all out. First of all, it was all out comic book shenanigans. Like straight from the pages. Like, I felt like I was watching a comic book. But it was like good writing and good characters, and the action was solid. So now we've just got like 4 pillars that this show is just like proudly sitting on, and and I'm having a blast. And then you get to that 6th episode, if that's what it was, and the whole lead up is good in the sense where they're on Genosha, and you know, there's like the soap opera drama between like Rogue and Gambit and Magneto, and it's just awesome.
Yeah.
But then, and like, so Tay watched some of the episodes with me, and she doesn't give a fuck about the X-Men, but she's watching the show in bits and pieces, and every time she's watching it, she's like tuned in, like it's got her attention, and she's having a good time. And she's like, wait, was that the Watcher?
Yes.
And I was like, oh my god. And so we rewound it, and she pointed it out. I'm like, oh my god. Well, I should have known that meant some shit was going to go down. But in my head, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, you know, but that should have been a dead giveaway that some shit was about to pop off. And oh my god.
Yeah.
Everything from the action to the surprise, just attack, to the absolute devastation, to just characters getting murked, like straight up just murdered. Gambit going out like a sick ass boss. The whole episode, and I think I got close to teary eyed. There's this guy who I work with, and him and I have been like geeking out about the episodes, and we were talking about that one. He's like, bro, I had tears in my eyes. And I was like, dude, for sure had tears in my eyes that episode. Like, that was insane.
It was
insane.
I think when the Watcher showed up, I audibly, like, I watched this alone. I live alone. And I like, out loud to nobody, I was like, oh no. Because you just know, like, they're not just going to put him in there like he's always watching. Like, some serious shit is about to go down.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, it was just like a straight up genocide. And it was amazing. Not bad order of words, but uh, uh, but just they just didn't pull any punches. They committed to just like making a show about just these tragic characters who experience tragedy, like
Yeah,
on the regular.
yeah,
And even the next episode was the one when they were in the Shi'ar Empire.
that's right.
Um, that whole episode, I was like, oh my god, like because I'm a Marvel. I hate the word fanboy because I'm not blind. I'm not a blind supporter, but for all intents and purposes, a Marvel fanboy. And so like to see like Ronan and the Kree and all that stuff, and then I care about this one character because it's the character Gladiator, like the Superman, purple Superman guy.
Yeah,
Um, he in Jonathan Hickman's run of the Avengers, specifically the Infinity graphic novel, is Emperor of the Shi'ar at the time. So I was just stoked to see him just as a fan of
mhm,
that series and just to see his powers on display and oh my god, the whole show, and then Rogue going AWOL in the next episode, like going after Thunderbolt Ross and Captain America, and
yeah.
uh, dude,
The whole
the whole
the whole
thing, they
thing
just crushed it,
arm so that stuff was nuts. Her having to
dude.
get power back.
I didn't know how much I needed that, like that
Yeah,
side that those side episode quests, but like her and Forge's relationship was so cool, and then like yeah, the adversary was amazing, and when she finally just like gets her powers back and just suits up with the new outfit, I was just like, oh my god! I mean, again, the animation. I mean,
yeah.
the animation for the whole show. I mean, there's some other standout shit. I mean, Rogue kills. What's his name? Um, I think it's the creator of the Sentinels. She
Bastion.
not Bastion, but she drops it. You know the guy. She drops him off the building, and he dies, but then he comes back as the human Sentinel.
That's not
Um,
that's not Gyrick, right?
no, it's not Henry Gyrick. It's the guy who Peter Dinklage plays in X-Men: Days of Future Past. Um, fuck, I just watched that movie because I've been doing a Deadpool Wolverine prep, but
That movie's going to make $1 billion.
dude, well, they fucking need it to.
Yeah, yeah,
But no, it will, and it rightly should.
yeah.
But anyways, when she killed, like all the tension, all the character moments were just crazy. You had the Nightcrawler Wolverine fight scene against all the human Sentinels. I
Yeah.
mean, everything was just like top notch. Oh my god, when Magneto is freed by that lady, I can't remember what her name is, and he just like flies to the North Pole, and he hasn't been speaking. They did a great job of showing his Auschwitz tattoo and like just building
Yeah.
up that something's happening with Magneto. He's
Yep.
having a terrible time. He just flies to the North Pole and then shuts all the power off. And that was one of the moments where I was home by myself and I was like looking around for people to react to. I was like, you guys. I was like, oh, okay, I'm alone. You guys see this? He's like, never again. Oh my god,
Yeah.
dude, so good. I don't know if it's my favorite Marvel show or not, since they've done the Disney Plus, but it might be. I don't know.
Yeah. It has to be up there. I
It
mean,
has to. I mean, Loki and WandaVision would be the other two, um, but yeah, it was just super phenomenal. So I'm excited for season 2, but I don't care if they take like 5 years. Like, take as much time as you
yeah,
want. Like, just keep the quality up. You know what I'm saying?
just make it good.
Just make it good. I don't care. I don't care how long it takes. Just make it good, and I'll be there day one.
Yeah. Yeah. It was astounding. I don't think anyone expected it to just hit as hard as it did, to be as like big of an emotional gut punch as it was, like basically every episode.
Yeah,
It,
seriously.
yeah. I
I can't
hope,
believe it.
like, I'm really excited for Deadpool and Wolverine. I hope whatever happens with live action mutants beyond that is able to live up to this, because that is
Oh,
a
it set the
really,
new standard.
yeah, that is a really tall order.
It really is. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not nervous at all about Deadpool and Wolverine. In fact, the most recent trailer was genius. I can't tell you why, but setting the trailer to "Like a Prayer" by Madonna
Yeah,
uh, was just so good. I don't know why that song choice hits or fits, but to see they did the slow mo walkout with Deadpool and Hugh Jackman sleeveless, just looking jacked as he's ever been, in his
yeah,
early mid 50s. Um, and Hugh Jackman, I think, so I tried to pace myself, but I'm ahead of schedule with my Deadpool Wolverine prep. But the first trailer made me so excited. For the first time in years, I was like, dude, I'm gonna watch these fucking X-Men movies in prep for the movie, and I'm not watching all of them, just the one with Wolverine in it.
mhm,
And I I just forgot how good of an actor he is, and other things too. I don't really like Les Mis, but he's awesome in Les Mis and
yeah,
The Prestige and shit, that one Prisoners. Hugh Jackman's really good in that. But
mhm,
regardless, like he just turns in a top notch performance every time as Wolverine, and so I've been getting so hype, and all I have left is the Deadpool movies now, and we know Ryan Reynolds crushes that, but knowing that it's a multiverse movie, I'm I'm just so excited to see the cameos, because there's going to be some fucking cameos. I mean, come on. Um,
there's, yeah. Do you think that Taylor Swift's Dazzler rumors are true?
I don't know. I mean, dude, Taylor Swift has had the biggest like 2 years, three years. Like, dude, it has been like Taylor mania.
Hmm.
Like somehow over a decade into her career, so anything's possible.
Yeah,
I mean, I think she'd be a great Dazzler. She looks the part. Um, so what was the rumor that I heard? Um, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I really anything's on the table, because I mean, Ryan Reynolds is such a fan of everything.
hmm.
Um, I mean, I had heard that Jennifer Garner was going to be back. Um,
I don't know
I
if
think
that's confirmed, but that's pretty like out
pretty. That's what I thought.
there.
I mean, if she's coming back, I think it'd be cool to see Ben Affleck as Daredevil. I mean, both those movies aren't good, but like, but to see just for fun, I mean, like, I I uh, I think that would be cool.
Yeah, yeah. Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider.
Oh, I would totally be down for that.
Yeah.
I have the first Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider on DVD, and that was like a movie I would always watch when I was homesick from school for some reason. That was like my go-to. So I have seen that movie like way more than the average person, and I'm sure the
Mhm.
average person nowadays hasn't seen that. But but like I have a special place in my heart for that movie, and I also love Ghost Rider. Um,
Yeah.
so that would be super cool. Um, yeah, I
Dream,
guess most. What'd you say?
dream casting for Ghost Rider if they did it now.
Oh, fuck. What's his name? I think. Is it Austin Butler, the guy who was Elvis and he was in Dune?
Yeah.
I think he'd be good. I just saw him in like a trailer for like some biker movie or show.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's why that's in my head. I think he'd be a good Johnny Blaze.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll stick with that for now. I'd have to think on that. That you put me on the spot there, but yeah, I like. I mean, Tay and I both really liked him as Elvis, and I
Yeah.
thought he was great in the second Dune movie. Did you see the most recent Dune movie?
Yeah. He's maybe my favorite part of that movie. The whole arena scene that kind of introduces him, and it's all like washed out black and
That
white.
was crazy. The cinematography on that planet was unreal.
Yeah, they shot the hell out of that movie.
Yeah, oh my gosh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think Dune. I watched the first one the morning of the day I saw Dune 2, and that was only my second time seeing the first movie. And I definitely liked it a lot better the second time, because the first time there's so many names and houses, it's almost Game of Thrones-esque
Yeah,
in the sense where you're like, okay, who the fuck is this person? What's the
right.
beef between these people?
Yeah,
But the second time through, like, what more or less what's happening in the plot, so like the names stick a lot more, and I was like, okay, I like this. This is good. I thought this, but I would say for me, like the first Dune, while gorgeous, was probably like a 7 out of 10 for me.
Mhm.
I thought the second one was like next level.
Yeah,
I thought it was so good. Yeah, our personal friend Michael and I were talking about it. What's the Bene Gesserit, that secret organization?
yeah,
And his mom just like we're spoiling Dune, by the way.
yeah.
Just like
Spoiler alert. You're doing that.
uh just like drinking that shit and just like going full balls deep on the whatever sort of religion she's in now, and just
Yeah,
becoming one of I like totally didn't see that coming
yeah.
watching the first movie. I'm like, oh wow, she's just like some sort of monk prophet situation.
She's going all in, make her eyes
Yeah,
turn blue and everything. Like,
yeah, she's like basically a whole new character. And so I really liked that. I thought that was great. I mean, visually speaking, it's probably the best looking movie since Rogue One, which I still think is one of the best looking movies of all time.
yeah. I mean, it's it's up there as far as like best movies I've seen so far this year, but like the cinematography is in a whole other category. Like, I don't know if that'll be topped anytime soon.
No.
There are just so many moments where you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, unreal. And like that was a movie that ended and I was like, more.
Yeah.
Immediately it ended. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm invested. I like the plot was good. I like the characters now. I feel because like it was that was the first two movies are like the first book, right? That's my understanding.
Mhm.
Dune 1 and 2 are based off the first book. And so I think that was my problem with the first Dune was like I felt like I just like I got zero closure on anything.
Yeah.
And I say problem like quotes. Because I still enjoyed it, but I was like waiting for the character payoff, and then I got it. Like, oh my gosh! In the second one, so much stuff happens that you're just like, oh, wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
But by the end, I was like, okay, I'm fully invested in all these characters. This ended. Florence Pugh. Sorry, tangent.
Yeah.
Didn't even know. I had no clue she was going to be in the movie. Awesome. She's great in everything she does. I love her.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it ended in such a way that I was like, oh, I'll watch the next 6 of these, however many they do. If they're doing
Yeah.
2 per book, I don't know how many books there are. I don't know anything, but I'm ready.
Just, yeah, keep it going. I mean,
Yeah,
first off, we can go on a Florence Pugh tangent anytime you
we
want, as
we
far as
can. You just let me know because I'm ready. I've got ammo.
fucking fire some shots then. Shit.
I mean, shit. First of all, Midsummer.
Yeah.
Enough said. I mean, first of
No.
all, first of all, performances, and I feel like scary movies or horror movies don't get enough credit because it's got to be exhausting to be like scared all the time. And while
So,
I wouldn't say Midsummer was a horror movie, it's just I don't even know what genre that is, like psychological thriller cult movie.
yeah.
Because it's not like classically scary, but like um
Suspenseful.
suspenseful, yeah. But like, first of all, like because her sister in that movie kills herself in like a super rude way,
Yeah. Yeah.
like very very inconsiderate.
Go fuck yourself, everyone else kind of way.
Yeah, come on. But
Wow.
like, yeah. So like to have to act,
Yeah.
and mourn for that, and then to also have to like act the weird relationship with her boyfriend,
Yeah.
where it's like he's kind of with her out of pity, and she kind of knows it but kind of doesn't, and then to also act like you're on like psychedelic mushrooms and like psychedelic tea. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. So, and she pulls it off so well the whole movie. And so that she's goated for that.
Mhm.
She steals the Black Widow movie.
Yep.
Like totally bought into Yelena. Was great in Hawkeye.
When she tries to do the pose, and then she's like,
Like, oh, yeah. Oh, it's so good.
brilliant.
Yeah. She's a great little sibling in that one. What is she? Oh, she was just an Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Small role, but very good role. That movie was crazy,
Mhm.
and yeah. So then, when all of a sudden she was just in Dune 2, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Bonus! Like she's probably one of my favorite working actresses right now. Even though she had like a super. Oh, and then Christopher Walken. What was he doing in that movie? That was crazy. Why was
That that was so funny because that was one of those moments where you froze for a second again, but you
uh-huh.
went. It was like the last thing I heard you say was she came out of nowhere, and then it was silent for 5 seconds, and then I just hear you go, Christopher Walken.
Well, they were just two people I did not expect to see in that movie. Like I had done no research, so I had no clue who the cast was. And so all of a sudden, like Christopher Walken and Florence Pugh are just in Dune 2, and I'm like, oh my god, this is great, like total win. It almost was like whoa, like when Matt Damon was in Interstellar, I remember being in theaters and being like, what the fuck, like like they're like such a star that if you don't expect them in it, you're like, oh wow, okay, that person's in it. Okay, gotcha. Um, but yeah, shout out Dune 2. Go see it if you haven't. Even what?
Is it okay if I go pee?
Are you
Okay.
relieved?
I am very relieved.
Fuck yeah. That's excellent.
But fucking, where were we? Christopher Walken, Florence Pugh.
Yeah. I said shout out Dune 2 for just having a fucking sick ass cast. I'm
Jack.
glad Josh Brolin was in this one as well.
Yeah.
I like him. I've seen a couple interviews with him recently, and I'm like, I think this guy's cool.
Yeah.
I would watch pretty much anything with him in it. Ooh. What if he has a cameo in Deadpool Wolverine?
As Thanos? Or
Or Cable. Cable. I was thinking Cable. I mean,
what
dude,
if he's
Thanos.
both?
Oh my god! And they could make a joke about it, or they could just play it straight. I mean, that's what's cool about having someone like Wolverine in the movie and Cable in the last Deadpool movie is like you have that kind of straight laced person to level out Deadpool's kind of insanity.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious. You know, in the trailer, and I don't know how many times you've watched it, so maybe you don't. But there's this scene where Hugh Jackman goes on his knees and he's in a white shirt and he just looks like totally distraught. And because they're kind of hinting that like he failed his world. I don't know. I mean, the Fox X-Men timeline is just fucked to shit, so I have no clue. You know, they have made a point to say that it takes place before Logan, which is like good. But I'm curious, like, what's going on with Wolverine in this movie? Because it just looks like he's down in the dumps. I mean, like that's kind of classic, but I don't know. I love Deadpool. I love Ryan Reynolds, but I'm here for Wolverine this time around for sure.
Yeah, well, it seems like they've set it up where he's like failed to do something in his universe, like
right,
and Like what could that possibly be? Because it's also not, it doesn't seem through the trailers like his world ended unless he is in like the wrong universe, maybe.
Right. And because you never know with all this multiverse stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've done enough teasing with me with that character where I'm like, what is happening? And Hugh
Yeah.
Jackman just sells it because he looks devastated. And like when like Deadpool's like, pointing the gun at him and he like puts his forehead up against the gun, he kind of does like a resigned smile, like please put me out of my misery sort of
Yeah.
thing. As
He's
soon
like
as that
different.
happened, yeah, as soon as that happened in the trailer, I was like, oh shit, is this gonna be like a real fucking movie? Uh like are we gonna have like some emotional beats that hit hard? Because if so, I'm gonna be stoked about it.
Yeah. I, I have a good feeling about this one.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Um, so this is totally random. My mom just texted me. She just wants me to send her a picture of my car. I've I've been riding around. My car's been looking ghetto as shit. Because a few weeks ago I was driving and I have a manual transmission and my
Mhm.
foot slipped off the brake when I was parking and hit the clutch. And so I just like lurched in first gear, and slammed into this like yellow pole that they have in front of like BP gas stations. And so I just
Uh,
have this massive dent on the passenger side of my car, and and the door won't open all the way. Not because the door's damaged, but because the dent got pushed into the door hinge.
oh
Um,
no.
and so now it's like, and Tay was getting pissed at me yesterday. Not at me, but we were driving somewhere and she forgot and like went to open it and it like forced the door shut and slammed.
Aw.
And so I've just been riding around in a ghetto mobile. And my driver's side mirror is missing its cover, so like the wires and stuff are just exposed.
Wow.
Um, so I'm riding around in a ratchet mobile right now.
Oh, that sucks.
Whatever. Uh, we live sort of hood adjacent, and so as far as I'm concerned, I'm just blending in.
Yeah.
No one's gonna want to break into my car if it looks like it's already been broken into.
Right. It's actually just a chemical. It's just,
It's just a little bit of insurance as far as I'm concerned. So thinking about how fruitful this past year has been for you, what are you thinking about the next year? Like, what are you looking to accomplish in the next year?
um, well, other than continued fitness goals, which I feel like is obvious, we've talked about that enough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. Everything so far this year just has this kind of really open-ended quality to it. Like I'm sort of settling into my life in a way I've never really been able to before, and it just kind of gives me this sense of like there's a lot of possibility. Like ever since surgery, like once I got past the sort of like most grueling parts of recovery, I've had this, the best way I can sort of describe the sensation is like the volume is lower, if that makes any sense. It's just like all of
Mm-hmm.
the like insane, like tension, anxiety, whatever is just like turned way, way, way down. So like what that makes me feel is I just like have the opportunity to live my life a little bit more like I guess presently than I ever have. And
Mm-hmm.
like that's already started to manifest in just like the experiences I've had over the past few months. So like to answer your question without dancing around it for 10 more minutes like I just did, it's, it's really just about like having experiences and like spending time with the people that I love, traveling, going to places I've never been, like all of the sort of little trips I've taken in quick succession recently. Like I want to do way more of that. I I mentioned earlier I live alone and I've lived alone ever since I moved to San Francisco, and so one of the things that's really important to me is like being able to travel as much as I can to see my friends, whether that's down to LA or over to Ohio to see you and Tay and Michael and Tay and
Right.
uh, double Tay
Right.
and you know, like meeting up with my cousins in Chicago. Like I want to do more things like that. So like it's not a very like sexy answer, but it really is just kind of like I can exhale a little bit and live my life kind of. And I've already found when I do these things, like I'm able to just kind of like drop in and be there for them in a way that I wouldn't say haven't ever been able to, but haven't always been able to, or hasn't always been as easy to do. And I just want more of that. I want more of like waiting in line at a record store and Kevin Feige walks around the corner, you know, like
Right.
just life experiences. And beyond that, it's just kind of back to, like I said, the same sort of habits, getting back to eating well and exercising. I still want to lose a little bit more weight. Like I'm obviously in better shape, like we talked about. I haven't hit like my final goal weight or gotten, you know, all the way to where I want to be with that, because obviously, you know, surgery was kind of like putting a bookmark in it. So I'm excited to get back to those things and excited to see where work takes me. We have a lot of really exciting projects coming up, not just the ones that are about to come out, but ones that we're about to go into production on. Like they've announced the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, so I'm not breaking my NDA by saying that that's happening. But
I didn't even fucking know about that. What?
Yeah,
What?
so they have foregone season 4 of The Mandalorian and instead turned it into a feature film, essentially.
Oh, yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Who's directing it?
It's still Jon Favreau.
Okay, well, that's even better.
Yeah. I love that we're getting your live reaction to this news.
Yeah, how did I not know about that? Usually I'm pretty tapped in and dialed in, but I've also been a lot more busy recently. But geez, well that's cool.
You are a dad now, so I can't
right.
I can't totally fault you if you don't know everything.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great answer, though. I think that, you know, like you said with your surgery, like there's that like focal point. So you're kind of looking towards the future.
Yeah.
Because I remember there was uncertainty with the date for a while, and so now that is out of the way, I feel like you're just able to like like you said, not that you never were able to do it before, but be more present. And I mean, that's great. I mean, that's life, right? I mean, because like we talked about, it's flying by. You know, I still feel very young. You know, I'll be 29 in July. So I still feel really young. And I think we are still young comparatively. I mean, you know, but
you are, because you're in your 20s, but I'm old because I'm in my 30s.
Yeah, whatever.
No, I feel young too. But
yeah, and I think part of it is just mindset. But I also am aware of how fast it's going to go by. And you know, when Tay and I moved to North Carolina, at first we were really good about going to different parks and doing all these things. And then, you know, Michaela moved in with us, Tay's sister, for those listening. And so then we were spending a lot more time with her, and we kind of like when we lived together at OU, like when you have 10 roommates, the party happens whenever you want it to. And, you know, granted, it was just the three of us, me, Tay, and Mick, but like we had our little unit there. And so like when we wanted to do something fun, we could. And it was winter when she was there, and we kind of got out of the habit of doing stuff. Granted, you and Michael came and visited, and that was awesome. And, you know, that we really appreciated that. And I guess, I don't know, I think I'm a little hard on myself for our time in North Carolina, because we did do a lot of fun stuff, and we made a lot of awesome friends, and I'm very happy with how my job went while I was there. But sometimes when Tay and I were talking, we feel like we didn't make the most of our time there in terms of just exploring North Carolina. We did, we explored a decent amount, and we went on a decent amount of good hikes, but a lot of it was very career focused while we were there. We both were super close to where we lived work wise, and a lot of the events that we had, like our wedding, were back in Columbus, or my buddy Alex's bachelor party, or my buddy Alex's wedding, or my bachelor party. And so all these things were not in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And so when we were moving from NC back to Ohio, we made it a point of discussion and a little bit of a promise for us. It's like, okay, when we're in Ohio, we're moving back for friends and family, and also to have, that safety net with June. But let's make sure we're making the most of it. And so literally from the first day being back in Ohio until now, we have just been pedal to the metal, doing stuff. Up until even June was born, and then we've done our best to try and take June with us to stuff and not be too limited, and just been hey, this is we might just be parenting in a new location, but at least we're out and about experiencing things and hanging out with friends. And people have also been really good that live here to come hang out and make the drive to us, since we do have a young little baby with us. And so I've been very grateful for that. But in the same way that you're just trying to kind of experience, that was something Tay and I have been very intentional about moving back to North Carolina. Is just if we can do it, we will. And if maybe we have a couple crazy weekends, and I'm not talking partying, but just there's almost no time for that. But just in terms of hanging out with friends and family, staying the night at families, or whatever it is that we're doing. If we're feeling exhausted, taking a minute. But I'll tell you, if it's a Saturday and we have nothing to do, granted, so Tay teaches yoga Saturday morning, so that's my dad and June time. So that's when June and I get to hang out for a few hours. But if we have nothing going on in the afternoon, we might have 4 hours of chill time before I'm all right, I'm good. That's all I needed, I'm ready to go. And yeah, I mean, luckily, because we also bought a house in December. So, 2 weeks before June was born. So being a homeowner and having a lawn to mow and shit to weed whack and house projects and stuff like that. And, we having it be a duplex and, making the other side an Airbnb. And so it's just been move back to Columbus. Tay's pregnant. Friends. New job for Tay. Sort of new job for me. Same job that I had, but resumed it at another studio here in Ohio. And then buy a house, have a baby, travel with baby. Just I just did this kayak a couple weeks ago, and ended up fundraising $10,000 for the Sebastian Strong organization. So it's just been nonstop in the best way possible. This past year has been so fulfilling, and in the sense that everything that we have wanted to do, we have done.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so it's just more of that.
Yeah.
More.
You were in North Carolina for how long?
It was about 20 months, 21 months. So just shy of 2 years.
Okay. I mean,
yeah.
I'm still I'm coming up on 3 years in San Francisco, almost exactly. And I still feel I've barely lived here. And I make a point all the time to get out and walk around the city and see stuff. So even when, I don't know, the point I'm trying to make is I think you can be kind to yourself about the time you spent there. Is it's you can, not to say you couldn't have done more, but you can do a lot in any given place for any amount of time, and barely scratch the surface sometimes.
Yes, that's very true. And yeah, no, that's a super good point. Yeah, because you visited the first New Year's that we were there, and then we were all in Ohio the second New Year's that we were there, and then 6 months later we were back in Ohio. So yeah, I mean, we still had an awesome time and did a bunch of dope shit. So I mean, I'm not like overly hard, but when just in terms of reflecting, Tay and I both came to the conclusion like, okay, North Carolina is awesome. We had a fun time. We made some great friends, but we could have carpe diem'd a little harder. And so that's what we've been doing here, and it's been good. We've been seizing the day for sure.
Well, that's what matters the most. As long as you're carpeing as many DMs as you can.
For sure.
Yeah.
One.
So you. Oh, sorry.
No. Go for it.
I was going to ask. You did hit your fundraising goal?
Yes, I did. Thank you for your donation.
For sure. Yeah, I wasn't fishing for gratitude, but
no. Well, you just reminded me though. I was like, because I saw that. But yes, yes, we did hit it. And I was unsure if that was something I was going to be able to do for sure.
Sorry, you just froze for a few seconds after you just reminded me.
What did I remind you of?
You said you just reminded me.
Shit. I know what it was. Okay, bro, this is gonna be a mess to edit. Yeah, I'm probably going to. We'll see how this bitch picks up all this shit. But anyways, what you reminded me of was I just had seen your donation, and yes, so I hit the 10,000. And the last day to fundraise was Friday, and so, dude, I was scared a little bit when I learned that's what we had to raise. I was like, fuck. I have never come close to doing anything like this. I did a Make-A-Wish thing where we had to raise like 2,000, and what we didn't raise, the studio or venture group was going to cover it. So because I did it through work, so I was like, nah, like super low stakes, don't really care. And that was $2,000, and I kind of just got to this point where I kind similar but different, where I was like, you know what, you've been saying can't, well, not can't, but you've been so nervous this whole time, but people have done it before, and people who know less have done it, I'm sure. That's what I always tell myself whenever I'm doubting anything. I'm like, people with less have done more, so there's no excuse. That's basically what it boils down to. People in a worse off position than yourself have made it happen and have done it better than you will. So you know what? Just fucking do it. And once I once I kind of like realized that with that, and actually started enjoying the process and really getting invested in the cause, I was like, you know what? This is going to happen. And as we got closer and closer, I started to realize, I was like, oh wait, you're actually going to do it. And because I had people, rightly so, by the way, like very much rightly so, who are like, are you sure you should be doing this with like a new kid? And like, like you've got other things to be focusing on. I was like, look, there's never going to be a good time for something like this. And more so, it was just nagging in the back of my head like this. So Diego, the guy who I met in North Carolina, who I did the trip with, he was a big reason. He was a big reason why I wanted to do this, because he had just inspired me. And in the back of my head, I was like, I can't let him down. He had become one of my really good friends, and I told him I was going to do it. And really, he was a big inspiration for me buckling down and getting it done. And yeah, and we made it happen. And so I don't like to say that I'm proud of myself, because I think it was Jimi Hendrix who said, like, compliments were sometimes a distraction for him. And so I don't like to like try and gas myself up too much, but I will a little bit. I'm very happy with myself that I was able to come through with that and get that done and make that happen. It just because it was a new thing and I'd never done it before. And so it's just been a year of a lot of news for me, I guess. And so I've been happy that I've been able to so far come out on top with that. And so that's been very rewarding.
Well, you don't want to gas yourself up. I will gas you up because I had seen you post about the fundraiser and about what you were doing down in the Keys a bunch of times, and I kept saying to myself, like, I got to donate, I got to remember to donate, I got to do it before it's too late. And finally, when I did several days ago, I had no idea what your goal was or how much you had raised so far. And when I went to the page and I saw how much you had raised and how close you were to what your goal was, I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. So, like, you should be proud of yourself. That's a really fucking cool thing. And for an amazing cause, no less, that you were able to do that. Like, definitely worth at least a little pat on the back, because that's a really cool thing. And it's something you can always say, like, I did that, you know, like, not that that's what it's about, but, like, we're talking about, like, experiences and living your life and, like, telling
100%.
You can always kind of have that as, like, just a really amazing thing that you did.
Yeah. And something I've been telling people about that experience, where it's like, so you're paddling, right? And, you know, we're averaging like 20 miles a day, let's say. And a lot of the time you're just kind of like, you've got this like mangrove or this island that's like 3 or 4 miles out. And it's kind of hard to gauge how close it is because you're just flat on the water. It's just part of the horizon.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, that's my marker. That's where I'm going. And for like, you know, 3 or 4 hours, you're just like, you know, maybe like more like two or three. And it could be a grind, and, you know, like your shoulders are tired, or you're just tired, or you're cramped a little bit, whatever. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, in all honesty, which was a relief. But when you're struggling, there was this cool thought I had in my head. I was like, yes, I do want to get from point A to point B, and I do want to like get to the end of the day so it's done. But there is nowhere I'd rather be right now. So it was very satisfying in the moment to want to be there, want to get to your goal, because there's also some satisfaction you get from completing a long day like that. But also, you're like in the moment, you're in the zone, you're like, even though I do want to get where I'm going, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. And that was a very cathartic experience. And I was very much just living in the moment. I was like, yeah, because there's no other responsibilities. Like I'm not at work. All I have to do is this one thing right here, right now. And it's very simple. So like when I got back, I was like, oh shit, that's right. I gotta fix the lawnmower. I gotta, you know, pay these bills. I gotta go back to work. I gotta juggle managing a household and, you know, being a dad and all this stuff, and which is all amazing. And it's all exactly what I want to be doing, but it's just more complicated. So it was nice to have the simplicity of just paddle, get from point A to point B, and also not want to be anywhere else while you're doing that. And luckily Tay was in South Carolina with her parents and grandparents, so she had a lot of extra hands with June, and so she got to relax a little bit. So I didn't feel guilty about being gone, which was nice.
That's awesome. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but it reminds me of the idea of like being in a flow state a little bit, where you're just like, you're just only focused on the exact thing you're doing at the moment. And that's something I used to experience when I played hockey, is like you almost like leave your body and you just forget about anything else in the world. And it's like one of the most rewarding things to just be able to be like that present with what you're doing. Even if, like you said, if it's really simple, like point A to point B, there's just something really like unbeatable about the experience of dropping in and being in the moment you're in, and just like for that amount of time, nothing else like even exists.
Yeah, yeah, and those moments are rare. So when they happen, it's like, let's go. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
I'm gonna, I'm gonna live in this for as long as it lasts,
Yeah.
and just be grateful that it got to happen. One question I wanted to ask you now that so you left the house, Ohio University, in December of 2017, yeah?
That's right. Yeah.
So, what fucking year is it? 2024.
Yeah.
Now, hold on. So 23. Now it's been like 6.5 years.
Ugh.
Now it's been 6.5 years. How do you look back? When you think about our time together during those special years at our house? What do you think of? Like, how do you reflect on that? I'm super curious.
Well, how much longer do you want this episode to be?
That's a good question. Just answer it. We'll see what happens. Because I just have this question and then one more statement-ish sort of thing to make, and then we can call it. But take as much time as you want.
Okay. I mean, it makes me super emotional. I like in every possible way. Like I get nostalgic for it. I think when I think about it, I spend the most time just being really grateful for it. Like living with you guys, making those friendships, getting to know you, literally changed my life. Like I know that sounds so dramatic, but you know, I came out while we were roommates, and a
I remember the
huge,
day.
yeah, ditto, vividly, vividly.
That's funny.
But like getting so close to you guys was genuinely formative in me, like feeling comfortable doing that, and in me like having the freedom, fuck the freedom, like having the ability even to start to say to myself like, oh, I can just be me. Like I can be myself. And not only is it okay, like it kind of doesn't matter. Like that is the feeling that I got living with you guys. And that was so liberating because I had never had that before,
Yeah,
ever.
these people don't give a shit. Like, they're just down.
They're just down. Everything was so matter of fact. And it totally set me free. And like, I genuinely never like loved people as intensely as I loved you guys. And so like whenever I think back on that time, I have a ton of gratitude. Um you know, it's one of those things where if I think about it for too long, it's almost scary because it's like well, speaking for myself, like I met you guys totally by chance, you know, like I essentially met you through, I think, Brandy, who I only knew because she was dating Colin, who lived in the same dorm as me. And
Oh, okay, that's the connection. I don't even think I knew that.
yeah, and like obviously, like we said, you weren't initially living in Millhouse, but like
I
the
was there
fact
24/7.
you were there 24/7, and the fact that like they needed and wanted an additional person to live there, and I just happened to be like available and looking, and like the rest is history. It's almost scary to me like how easily it all could have not happened, but
Yes. Oh my God, for sure.
like I'm so glad that it did. It literally changed my life, and like I miss it all the time, you know, like I've been really fortunate to like when I moved out to California, I initially moved to LA at the same time as a lot of my friends from OU, so I had a lot of friends around me. And when I moved to San Francisco, I was able to make a lot of good friends through work, and a couple other people that I met outside of work have become good friends of mine here. But like I've never had connections and I've never had experiences like we had during those years. and I miss it all the time.
Yeah,
All the time.
definitely never had experiences like that.
Well, and
Yeah.
it'd be irresponsible now, like to do the things that we did. Like,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the beauty of it is also it's like there was a time and a place,
right?
and it's almost like this get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
That time was where, like, obviously there were consequences. Without going into detail, but but mostly got away with stuff. Like I don't know. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was curious. The reason I wanted to ask that is because I spend a lot of time thinking about that that era as well, and it was totally a chance for me to even have met Rob
Hmm.
the way I did because I wasn't even supposed to be. I was supposed to live with Michael,
Right.
and the fact that I just randomly ended up living with Rob, who lived down the hall from Michaela, and now Michaela's my sister-in-law.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh
like
my God.
it's just one of those life events where I just had completely no control
Yeah.
over the fact that I just was introduced to these people, and now I'm forever changed by it and forever grateful for it. And then just the experience. So, just for frame of reference, for those of you who are like, "What is happening?" Who have even made it this far.
Yeah.
Um,
Why?
who are you? Yeah, what are you doing?
That could happen.
Yeah. Come on now. Episode 6, baby. But anyways, we Sam and I were roommates. We lived in this house at Ohio University in the town of Athens, on the top of this hill on a street called Mill Street. It was technically North College, but on the corner of North College and Mill Street, living in this big white house on the top of a hill.
Hmm.
And there were 3 units, and we lived in the bottom one, this unit C. So we were basement people, and and there were like 10 people that lived there. I was not one of them initially, but my entire friend group did, and I lived less than a half mile away, and so I was there all the time. And then my senior year, I moved in, and there was like 11 of us, and then our 5th year, or the 3rd year at the house, my 5th year there, there was a lot of our friends had graduated, and so there was like 5 of us, I think, left living there. And regardless, it was these 3 years that were incredibly formative, and it was co-ed. So there was like anywhere from like, we'll say 9 to 11 people, because there were some unofficial roommates that just like lived there, but like their house wasn't there. Like M, for example, she lived in a dorm
Right.
junior year, her sophomore year, my junior year, but lived at the house, just never went to her dorm. Hilarious. But regardless, it was just this intense experience where there are so many roommates, and we live at the top of this party street, right by the main strip of Court Street in Athens, Ohio. And it was just this intense 3-year trip
Yeah. Yeah.
where we all just like fell in love with each other as a group. So for me, because I like was a terrible student in the sense I wasn't doing anything. For me, I sometimes look back on myself a little harshly, like, oh, you should have been getting your shit together a little bit more. But it all worked out, and I'm so happy with life now, so it really doesn't matter. And
Mhm.
at the time, Sam, I was doing exactly. You want to talk about living in the moment? I didn't give a shit about the future.
Like the problematic end of that spectrum. Like
I didn't
no
care.
regard.
Yeah, no regard. I was so in the moment.
Yeah.
So in the moment. In the best way possible, that I actually had to like I was codependent on you, on all of you, and on the house as a whole, that I had to like right, it was basically the summer before the last year there. I was like, okay, dude, you need to pull back a little bit, because your identity is these people in
Yeah.
this house. And it was great. And I'm so glad it was. And that was just part of the growth that I needed to have happen for myself. And that was so, and I have no regrets seriously at all, because I wouldn't trade my experience in the town of Athens for anything. There is no amount of money you could offer me that I would accept, the good and the bad. And most of it was just amazingly good. There was some intense bad, but for the most part, it was amazingly good. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. It was so formative, and the relationships are relationships I cherish to this day. And here we are, having met, we'll say, spring, summer of 2014. Here we are, fuck Sam, 10 years later.
10 years, we've just hit like a thing.
Whoa, yeah, because I think I probably met you like end of April, beginning of May. End of April, beginning of May of 2014. So shit. Oh yeah, we just crossed the 10-year finish line, bitch.
Unreal. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I wouldn't trade any second of it for anything. I think it's probably fair to say that, like, there are things I did, I'll just speak for myself, there are things I did at that house that probably took time off the end of my life. And like, I would not trade it for anything. Those experiences were so profound and so meaningful. And yeah, leaving was hard because, just like you said, I think my identity got really wrapped up in living there and just being so close to you guys too. And like, dude, the night I left, the night that I drove away from that house, I was a wreck. I mean,
I remember that day too.
I'm sure you do. I was a inconsolable mess. And like, you know, we've all, I guess, moved on and just settled into what our lives are now. And it's amazing that we're all still like in touch and friends. And we've had these incredible chances over the last few years to get together, whether it's New Year's or like people's weddings. Like, there have been a lot of things that have brought us together. But I still find, like, in my day-to-day life, sometimes I'm just like, man, I could use the Millhouse vibe right now. Like,
yeah. If I could just have a weekend,
yeah,
a Millhouse weekend, that would be sick. Yeah. No, just incredible in all ways. And yeah, so I guess one thing I wanted to say before we wrap this up, and it kind of relates to kind of the journey. So my journey post Millhouse was I severely lacked discipline. I was basically living out my childhood fantasies at Millhouse, which was a beautiful, lovely thing, and that was great. But it was eventually, it's time for boys to grow up, and so what I was lacking, and something we talked about earlier, was discipline, and so that had kind of been my journey, and has been my journey, is establishing discipline and then sticking to it. And I feel I was way harsher on myself, like the first few years afterwards, like, what were you doing? Da, da, da. But then I got it together, and things have been awesome. And so it's, I'm much more forgiving and of myself. But and I'm also being a big fan and practitioner of discipline, I'm also, I believe in leading by example, and also I guess walking the walk in addition to talking the talk, right? And I feel like I failed that after our last attempt at this podcast, because I was so embarrassed with. So I don't. Well, you listened to the one with my sister, right? The episode with my sister.
That one, and I'm like halfway through the one with Kendall as well.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, so the way, and this is, as someone who's in film, you're just gonna laugh at how ratchet I am. But the way I was going about that is because we were FaceTiming and not Zooming, because Zoom, I had like a limit. use like 40 minutes or whatever. I don't have a work account. So we were FaceTiming, I believe. And so I was just screen recording the FaceTime. And what's funny about screen recording is even though I had my mic linked to my laptop, I didn't realize that you had to turn on your microphone for screen recording. And so the entire fucking podcast was just silent. Not a sound. And I remember listening to it the first time. Well, or not listening. But I remember listening to it the first time and being like, oh, what the fuck? Something's wrong with my laptop. Da da da. And then like starting to kind of go into panic mode, like, okay, like, why didn't this work? And then like, I can't remember how I figured it out, but eventually I realized, I think what I did was I set up my entire laptop how it was. And then I like realized when I went onto the screen recording setting that you had to turn your microphone on. And I was just like, oh my God. And I was so embarrassed that I couldn't bring myself to tell you, because I was just like, oh my God, you are such an idiot. You're so dumb. I was so embarrassed. And I didn't, and again, I didn't try. It's just whenever this was September. I didn't even attempt another episode until January with my buddy Sean, and he ended up not wanting me to release that one, which is totally fine. And at that point, I was like, well, I'm going to get a fucking episode out, like, because I've done this twice now. And so my sister hopped in and was a G for that. But I was so embarrassed I didn't try October, November, December. It was like 4 months where I just like was like, I had to like go lick my wounds. But it was so embarrassing. And not because I was embarrassed from what I did, but my behavior was embarrassing in the sense where it's like, bro, you're gonna let that get you down, and then you're also not gonna tell Sam that you just fucked up. Like, Sam's not gonna care. She's gonna laugh exactly how she is right now. But I just felt so bad, especially just because I knew the industry you worked in. I felt like you were doing me such a solid already for just being the first guest, and I just blew it. Like I'm just such an unprofessional, and I still am. But I'm a little bit better. I've got better camera savvy. I've got other cameras, and I've got good editing software now. So like we're getting somewhere. But what my point in all this was, I am sorry for not living up to my own set of values and just coming clean right away. And because of that, we also hadn't really talked that much. We had done some texting a little bit here and there, and I think we had talked a little bit before your surgery, like me, you, and Tay. I think we did do a FaceTime, but I just wanted to apologize and thank you again for doing a second attempt and something that I can actually release. But I very much value our friendship, and I love you very much. And sorry I was a little baby bitch boy.
And I tell you, it's just not even a thing, like at all.
I know, but it weighs heavily on me. I knew you were going to be a chiller about it. That was never a question. It's just it has been weighing heavily on my soul since our first attempt.
Well, one thing I feel similarly, and I feel like it's worth saying since you brought this up. I have felt bad that I haven't been in touch with you and Tay as much since June was born. And I have definitely been feeling guilty. Like I should have said more on the day. Like I should have said more when it happened. And I feel like today, like, she's almost 5 months old. I just got to meet her on camera and it was so incredible. But the whole time I'm sitting there like, what the fuck have I been doing that it's, taken until now to like sit down and do this. So I will also apologize for over the last few months, probably not being in touch as much as I should, not being as supportive as I should, not expressing my love for you guys as much as I should, because that stuff never goes away. But
Sure.
But definitely I've been just sort of, I think, on my own path for the last few months, and we both have. You and I
totally fair. Yeah, there's been a lot going on.
You and I have both been through life-changing experiences within the last like 5 to 7 months. So I On
No
behalf
doubt.
of both of us, I will give us both a pass if you
Yeah,
are.
we get a little bit of grace. Yeah, I'm okay with that. And if I may say, we thought nothing of it in the sense. Obviously, we wanted to. Um, we love talking with you, but it's this weird thing. Like, even though like you have a kid, you still feel like the responsibility. It's like, well, we haven't been as good as reaching out and doing that, so we felt the burden of that as well. But part of like, I feel like growing up and just leveling up in life is just you just get better at handling the new responsibilities, and so there's like some adjustment periods where you're just not as good at doing things that you were good at because you're adjusting to the new things, and then once you kind of settle in with that, then you become good at doing all the things again. And I think that is just kind of what it's like to have life events happen to you and to get through them and somewhat master them, and then you can kind of start doing the other things again. But regardless, I appreciate that nonetheless, and we're just fucking adorable here at the end of this episode.
We're just being cute as shit.
Oh, that bitch cut out again. I have no clue what you said. As soon as you started talking after I started laughing, it cut out.
You said we're being adorable, and I just said we're being cute as shit.
Yeah, it's a fact. It's a fact.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me again. I just kind of assumed after we recorded, and then I saw your podcast pop up, and I saw the episode with Lisa. I was like, whatever. I was like, there's some explanation. Like, it either wasn't good, or something technical happened, or I sounded like an idiot. But like,
it was fucking sick. We did a great job, both of us. We did awesome. It was an amazing episode. No one will. I might just post a YouTube video and it'll just be silent. It'll just be us not talking or not saying anything.
Yeah, call it like the hidden episode or whatever. Yeah. But as soon as I heard you bring it up to Lisa, I was like, I would do it again anytime.
Well, I'm so glad you reached out and said that. Well, I'm gonna hit pause recording and then we can say goodbye offline. But to those of you that made it this far, take Cameo. Hold on, let me unplug. We were just ending the episode, and then I was gonna say goodbye. Oh, you could hear. Yeah. Do you want to say thanks for listening, everyone?
Thanks for listening, everyone.
That's adorable. All right, thanks, everyone.